My name is Emily Wong. I'm 42. And the day my brother tried to have me locked up for drug possession was the same day I'd just taken down the biggest fentanyl network on the West Coast. The irony hit me hard as I sat in the back of the police cruiser, wrists bound with zip ties, watching Nathan stride back and forth across his pristine lawn, gesturing wildly at the officers. 2 decades of keeping my DEA career a secret to shield my family, and this was the endgame, my own kin trying to ruin me. "She's been acting unstable for months," Nathan yelled, his voice dripping with that familiar patronizing tone I'd endured since we were kids. Living in that rundown apartment, jobless, probably selling drugs to scrape by, I found a bag of white powder in her coat pocket. The bag of baking soda I'd been carrying to scrub coffee stains from my surveillance van. The van parked 3 streets over, loaded with enough federal tech to orchestrate a small military operation. Officer Carter looked unconvinced. "Sir, we need more than just—" "Look at her," Nathan cut in, pointing at my faded jeans and worn hoodie. "Does she look like someone living an honest life? She's 42, never had a proper job, never brought anything to this family but shame." The second officer, a young woman with a nameplate reading Lopez, glanced at me with what might have been pity. I kept quiet. 20 years of undercover work had taught me when to hold my tongue and let others expose their true selves. Nathan had always been the star of the family. Stanford MBA, tech startup that went public when he was 29, married to a biotech heiress, living in a 9,000-square-foot testament to his triumph. Our parents had made it clear from childhood. Nathan was the success story, the one who counted. I was just the scrappy outsider who barely finished community college and couldn't hold a steady job. What they didn't know was that I'd earned a chemistry degree with honors from UCLA before being recruited into the DEA's top-tier task force. What they couldn't know was that my joblessness was actually covert missions that took me from cartel hideouts in San Diego to meth labs in Seattle. My shabby apartment was part of my cover identity. My erratic behavior stemmed from 18-month operations I couldn't discuss, even with family. The deception was necessary. At my level of drug enforcement, threats included assassination plots, abductions, and targeted attacks on loved ones. So I let them see me as a failure, better their scorn than their graves. "Emily's always been a mess," Nathan went on, gaining momentum. The officers scribbled notes. "Dropped out of school, couldn't keep a job, probably has mental health problems. I mean, look at where she lives." He'd been laying the groundwork for months. Since our father passed and left me an equal share of his estate, Nathan had been pushing for a competency evaluation. He'd hired attorneys, collected proof of my instability, and now this, trying to get me arrested to prove I was unfit to inherit. What Nathan didn't know was that I'd been investigating him for half a year. It started with a routine financial sweep of a target's contacts. Dr. James Carter, Nathan's brother-in-law, had triggered our systems with suspicious prescribing patterns. Opioids, amphetamines, and sedatives in volumes that pointed to illegal distribution. Digging deeper, I uncovered ties to Nathan's company, a healthcare software platform that was secretly facilitating pill mill operations across 4 states. My own brother was running a prescription drug trafficking ring linked to over 250 overdose deaths. The proof was on an encrypted drive in my coat pocket, the same coat Nathan claimed held drugs. "I think we should bring her in," Carter said at last. "Let her clear her head, run some tests." "Wait," Lopez said, eyeing her tablet. "Ma'am, can you state your full name for the record?" "Emily Grace Wong," I replied. She frowned at her screen, then glanced at her partner. They stepped aside for a hushed discussion. Nathan kept pacing, checking his designer watch, likely calculating how fast he could get me committed and challenge the will. Lopez approached again. "Ma'am, we need to verify some details." "Do you have identification?" I nodded toward my coat. "Federal ID inner left pocket," Nathan snorted. "Federal ID? What's she claiming now, that she's CIA?" Lopez carefully retrieved the leather badge holder. She opened it and her expression shifted. She showed it to Carter, whose jaw tightened. "Sir," Lopez said to Nathan, her tone now sharp, "step back." "What? Why? What's going on?" Carter was on his radio, speaking quickly. I caught snippets. "Federal agent, DEA, need a supervisor now." Nathan's smug demeanor began to falter. "That's probably fake. She could have gotten that online or—" "Mr. Wong," Lopez cut in, "step away from the vehicle." "Now, but she's my sister. I called you. She's the one who—" "Step away." Now, within minutes, 2 more police cars arrived, followed by a black SUV I recognized instantly. Special Agent in Charge Maria Torres stepped out, her face stern. Behind her was Agent Brooks from our task force, flanked by 2 federal marshals. Nathan backed toward his house, his confidence crumbling. "I don't understand what's happening," he stammered. "Emily doesn't work for the government. She's unemployed, she lives in a dump." Sack Torres approached the cruiser. "Agent Wong, are you hurt?" "No, ma'am, just restrained." She nodded to Lopez, who cut my zip ties. As I stood and adjusted my coat, Torres turned to Nathan. "Mr. Nathan Wong?" "Yes, but I don't. You're under arrest for conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, running a criminal enterprise, and money laundering. You have the right to remain silent." Nathan's face cycled through shock, disbelief, panic, and finally realization as the marshals approached with handcuffs. "Emily?" His voice was small now, a far cry from the authoritative tone he'd used to accuse me. "Emily, what's happening?" I looked at him for a long moment. My little brother, who once built pillow forts with me, who cried when I left for college, who'd somehow become a man profiting off misery. "I'm DEA Nathan," I said. "Have been for 20 years. You're the target of Operation Safe Streets." His knees buckled. He collapsed onto his driveway, staring at me like I was a stranger. "But you're a nobody. You never amounted to anything. Mom and Dad said what I needed them to say to keep you safe." I crouched to meet his gaze. The apartment, the joblessness, the odd hours, it was all a cover. I've been undercover for 2 decades to protect this family from the kind of people I chase. Nathan's wife, Lauren, appeared at the door, then screamed when she saw federal agents on her lawn. Their kids, my niece and nephew, peeked out from behind her. "The ironic thing," I went on, standing, "is that while I was shielding you from drug traffickers, you became one. 250 lives, Nathan. 250 families broken because you wanted bigger profits." As the marshals pulled him to his feet, Nathan looked around desperately. At his mansion, his luxury SUVs, his perfect suburban empire. All of it built on suffering and death. "I didn't know," he whispered. "About you, I mean, I thought, God, Emily, I thought you were worthless." "I know," I said quietly. "That was the idea." They loaded him into the federal van. Lauren was sobbing, probably calling their attorney. Neighbors gathered, gawking. Nathan's flawless life was collapsing in real time, a spectacle for everyone who'd admired him. Sack Torres approached as the vehicles prepared to leave. "Solid work, Wong. Clean takedown." "Thank you, ma'am. Take some time off. This one hit close to home must have been tough." She was right. 2 decades of letting my family see me as a letdown. 2 decades of missing birthdays and reunions to protect strangers from predators like my own brother. And now this. The bitter victory of justice served by the family outcast they'd never truly known. As the convoy drove off, I stood alone on Nathan's pristine street. The neighbors eventually scattered, but I felt their curious eyes from behind windows. By morning, the news would spread. The jobless sister who'd shamed the family for years was the federal agent who toppled their golden boy. I walked the 3 blocks to my surveillance van, past the trendy cafes and shops that always made me feel like an outsider in my faded clothes. Now I realized I'd never been out of place. I'd been exactly where I needed to be, doing what had to be done. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Just saw Nathan on the news. Please tell me you had nothing to do with this." I typed back. "I had everything to do with it. I was the one who brought him down." Her reply was quick. "What do you mean? You're not in law enforcement." I responded. "I've been DEA for 20 years, Mom. Senior special agent. I couldn't tell you because of security protocols." 3 dots blinked, then vanished, then blinked again. Finally. 20 years, 20 years. Another long pause. Then, "Your father would have been so proud." I sat in my van for a while after that, watching the sun dip below the city I'd spent 2 decades safeguarding. Tomorrow, I'd start the paperwork for the biggest drug bust of my career. Tomorrow, I'd face the press, the accolades, and the inevitable questions about targeting my own family. But tonight, I was just Emily Wong, 42 years old, finally free to be who I'd always been. Someone who devoted her life to protecting others, even when they thought she was nothing. The family failure had been the family guardian all along, and for the first time in 20 years, that felt like enough.